Welcome! Do you want to learn English in a fun and easy way? In this video, we teach English using narrated, animated stories. Here is how it works. On the left, watch the beautiful animations. They are designed to help you understand and enjoy the story. On the right, you can read along as you listen to the narrator. When we reach a difficult word, don't worry. A box will appear at the bottom with a simple definition and an example to help you learn. Let's get started.
June 24th was a national holiday in Venezuela. It was a day to remember the Battle of Carabobo, a fight from 1821 that helped the country become free. On that evening, many Venezuelan families were at home. The streets were quieter than usual in cities like Caracas. People were enjoying a peaceful night. But just after 6 o'clock, this quiet time ended. The ground suddenly began to move under millions of people. It shook with terrible force, not just once, but twice, in less than a minute. The United States Geological Survey, a group that studies the Earth, said these were two strong earthquakes. The first was magnitude 7.2. The second, even stronger, was magnitude 7.5. They hit northern Venezuela only seconds apart. People later said it did not feel like one quick shake. It felt like a continuous rolling violence that kept going. Roberto Gamas, a resident of Caracas, said his building shook very hard. He described the force as truly unreal and incredibly strong. Strong earthquakes are rare in Venezuela. Most people had never felt anything like this. For many, it felt like the world was completely breaking apart. When the second, more powerful shake stopped, the terrible damage was clear. Tall apartment buildings in the capital, Caracas, had twisted and completely collapsed into piles of rubble. The main international airport was badly damaged and had to close, stopping all flights. A coastal state just north of Caracas was almost completely destroyed. Within a few hours, everyone knew this was a huge problem for Venezuela. The country was already tired from 10 years of money problems and many months of political changes. This was the most deadly natural disaster many of its citizens had ever seen. This book will tell the story of what happened on June 24, 2026. It will explain why the earthquake struck with such ferocity or extreme power. It will also show important facts about the Earth, about how countries are managed, and the reasons why some people survive big earthquakes and some do not. As the dust settled and the first desperate screams began to rise from the wreckage, the survivors started to understand something scary. This was no ordinary earthquake. An invisible, deadly monster was lurking deep beneath their feet. Just how deadly was this hidden monster? 2. The earth shakes. The ground moved strangely on June 24th. It did not just shake once, it moved 2 times, very quickly, in well under a minute. This was a very unusual event. Scientists call this a doublet. It is a rare phenomenon when 2 large quakes strike so close together. The first earthquake had a magnitude of 7.2. It started deep underground near the town of San Felipe, which is about 100 miles west of Caracas. But only 39 seconds later, a second, even stronger earthquake hit. This one measured 7.5 on the magnitude scale. Its center was closer to the small town of Moran, right by Venezuela's Caribbean coast. Seismologists estimate these 2 quake centers were only about 3 miles apart. It was almost like the same exact location shook twice, very quickly. This made the disaster much, much worse than a single quake would have been. This kind of doublet is incredibly dangerous. Think about a building. The first earthquake hits it hard. This first shock might not make the building fall down, but it makes it weak. It can create cracks in the walls and loosen the connections that hold floors and walls together. It strips away the building's defenses. Then, just seconds later, the second, much stronger earthquake arrives. It strikes those same structures that are already weakened. Buildings that might have survived just one strong shake were completely obliterated because they had to absorb two powerful blows. People felt a deep dread as they realized the danger of this double attack. The first shake was like a warning, but the second was the killer, designed to finish the job. It caused many apartment towers to fold into themselves, trapping thousands of people inside. The larger of these two quakes is now known as the most powerful earthquake to hit Venezuela since 1900. This means that in 126 years of recorded history, only one earthquake was measured as stronger than what happened on June 24th. The shaking did not respect national borders. Tremors were felt across the entire region, not just in Venezuela. People in neighboring Colombia felt them, and reports came from as far away as the Amazon region of Brazil, more than 1,000 miles from the epicenter. But the underground violence did not end with the two main shocks. After them, a new, relentless terror emerged, a drumbeat of over 130 aftershocks. These smaller tremors followed in the days after the main quakes. They made rescue efforts very difficult and kept many scared residents from returning to their homes, even those that might still have been safe. Scientists warned there was a good chance of more strong aftershocks, perhaps a magnitude 6 or higher within the next week. This meant the danger was far from over. Everyone knew the ground could still move again, threatening to bury anyone who survived the initial collapse. 3. Counting the dead. The ground had stopped shaking, but a new terror began. People started to count the dead. At first, the government said only 32 people died. Around 700 were hurt. But this was just the start. Every hour, the numbers grew. The next morning, 164 people were confirmed dead. 971 were injured. By Thursday, 188 people had died, and 1,520 were hurt. 157 people were still missing. Teams worked hard to find those trapped. By Thursday evening, the number of dead reached 235. About 4,500 people were injured. These numbers, while sad, probably understate the real problem. The U.S. Geological Survey uses a special computer model called PAGER. This model helps guess how many people might die and how much damage there will be. For this earthquake, the model's message was clear. It said there was a 40% chance that between 10,000 and 100,000 people would die. There was a 14% chance that even more than 100,000 could be dead. Another run of the model said a 44% chance of over 10,000 deaths. It gave a 30% chance of over 100,000 deaths. The model's warning was unambiguous. Many people would die, and there would be huge damage. This big difference between the government's low count and the model's high prediction tells its own story. The government counts are only for bodies found right away. After a big earthquake, it is hard to find everyone. There is chaos everywhere. There are not enough tools or people. The main airport was broken, making it hard for help to arrive. Many people slept outside because they were scared of more shaking. Because of all this, it can take weeks or months to know the real number.
experts said that early numbers could trivialize a very serious situation. The true scale of death in the worst areas was likely much higher.
The coastal state of La Guaira, north of Caracas, was hit the hardest. It was named a disaster zone. More than 100 buildings fell there. Delcy Rodriguez, the acting president, called it a true tragedy. In Caracas, the nice neighborhood of Altamira was also very badly damaged. Many mid-rise apartment buildings there suffered devastation. At least 200 people were thought to be stuck inside collapsed buildings in the capital. Behind every number was a human story. Larry Rojas, a 49-year-old father, stood in Katia Lamar. His family was trapped inside a collapsed building. He told a reporter he had nothing left. He did not even have the strength to go look for them. Odalis Escalona, a 54-year-old bank worker, remembered the stairs breaking and the ceiling falling. She called it horrible. A journalist in Caracas watched her apartment walls move. She heard people screaming outside. This slow accumulation of sad stories showed the true horror of the disaster. The real number of dead began to show itself from the shadows. 4. Why did it happen? Venezuela is not a country people often link with big earthquakes. Most strong quakes happen along the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is a horseshoe shape of fault lines and volcanoes around the Pacific Ocean. Countries like Japan and Chile are there, but Venezuela is far from it. So why did such a huge shaking happen there, causing so much damage? The answer lies in bad luck, geologically speaking.
Venezuela's northern coast sits on the edge of two very large pieces of Earth's skin. These are called tectonic plates. To the north is the Caribbean plate, and to the south is the South American plate. These two enormous plates do not hit each other head-on. Instead, they grind sideways past one another in a movement scientists call a strike-slip fault. This is the same basic mechanism responsible for California's famous San Andreas Fault. For well over a century, this grinding movement caused stress to slowly accumulate along the fault lines. Think of pushing a giant spring down for a very long time. The energy builds up, silent and hidden deep beneath the ground. Then suddenly, it can let go in a single, sudden, and often very large rupture. This pattern appears to be exactly what happened in central Venezuela. The ground had been quietly building up deadly tension for more than 100 years. The violence of June 24th looked less like a surprise and more like a very overdue release. Caracas, the capital city, has another serious problem. It is not built on hard, solid rock. Instead, the city sits within a deep bowl of soft, loose soil. Scientists call this a sedimentary basin. This soft ground makes earthquake waves much stronger. It actually amplifies the shaking, like a giant speaker makes sound louder. Buildings constructed on that soft sediment shake much more violently than identical buildings erected on solid rock just a few miles away.
So, Venezuela was hit by a genuinely massive, statistically rare earthquake. It struck in precisely the kind of soft, sound-amplifying soil basin that makes shaking worse. Millions of people were living in homes built on top of this ticking geological time bomb, and almost none of them knew how close they were to the edge. 5. Bad buildings. On the same day Venezuela was hit by its terrible earthquakes, a strong 7.2 magnitude earthquake also struck Japan. In Japan, there was no major damage, no tsunami warning, and no one was hurt. This was a stark difference from Venezuela, where thousands suffered. How could two earthquakes of similar strength cause such different results? This comparison brings up a very important
and uncomfortable truth. Earthquakes do not directly kill people. Bad buildings do. The ground shaking is a natural event, but when buildings are poorly made, they become very dangerous. They can fall and trap or kill people inside. This reveals a sad fact about natural disasters. The death toll often depends on how a society chooses to build and prepare, sometimes many years or even decades before. Venezuela had tried to learn from past experiences. After a devastating earthquake hit Caracas in 1967, the country changed its building rules. New seismic codes were introduced. These codes required stronger buildings and careful study of how different types of soil affect shaking. On paper, by the late 20th century, Venezuela's building standards were not simple or weak. However, the bigger problem was not the rules themselves, but making sure they were followed. Over many years, there was a failure to enforce these strict codes properly. Decades of economic crisis, very high prices called hyperinflation, and political problems made the government weak. It lost its ability to inspect, approve, and control how buildings were constructed. This meant that many apartment towers, which should have been safe, instead became deadly weapons when the earth shook. Years of corruption also played a part, allowing poor quality construction to continue. Furthermore, a large part of the population lived in informal housing. These structures were built outside any official rules or inspections. They were particularly ill-equipped to survive a major earthquake. Many of these dwellings were already severely compromised after the main shocks. With thousands of these weak buildings barely standing, a massive impending aftershock threatened to completely erase what little of the city remained. The people of Caracas knew that the danger was far from over. Chapter 6. A country in trouble. The earthquake hit a country already facing huge problems. Just 6 months before, on January 3, 2026, the United States carried out a military operation in Venezuela. This was very unusual. U.S. forces bombed important places in northern Venezuela. This was to stop the country's air defenses. Then a special team went into Caracas. They caught the president, Nicolás Maduro, and his wife, Celia Flores. They were taken to New York to face trial. The charges were about drug trafficking. President Donald Trump said this operation, called Operation Absolute Resolve, was a powerful display of American strength. After this, Venezuela's military agreed that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez would be the acting president. This was the same Delcy Rodriguez who would later be dealing with the earthquake disaster. This event changed Venezuela's relationship with the world very quickly. The United States and Venezuela started talking again. The U.S. Embassy in Caracas reopened for the first time in years. Washington also made a deal for Venezuelan oil. They lifted old punishments on oil exports. This new interim government, supported by America, now led the country. However, Venezuela was already in deep trouble. Its economy had shrunk by 80% over the past 10 years. This was one of the biggest economic falls in history. This collapse meant the new leaders had almost nothing. Hospitals were empty. Emergency services were weak. There were no funds to organize a proper rescue effort. The earthquake made this lack of resources clear for everyone to see. President Donald Trump spoke publicly about the disaster. He quickly linked it to America's new role, saying the U.S. had effectively taken charge of Venezuela. He promised help for the tremendous earthquake. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also announced that the U.S. would send rescue teams, medical aid, and humanitarian help. He promised the American response would be big, fast, and effective. The country, already broken by years of problems and this sudden political change, was now completely exposed to the world. Citizens watched, full of worry. They wondered if their newly installed government, backed by a foreign power, could truly save them from the rubble, or would many more people simply perish? The nation's future was uncertain, hanging in the balance. 7. Help from the world. The main international airport, Simón Bolívar International Airport, was badly hurt. Its roof had fallen in parts, and it was now closed. This made it very hard for help to come. How could foreign rescue teams get to people trapped under buildings if planes could not land? Time was running out for many survivors. But help quickly started to arrive from many places. The United Nations Secretary General said he was very saddened by the disaster. The UN's humanitarian chief also called for a massive effort from everyone. The United States quickly sent search and rescue teams and medical aid. Many neighboring countries also offered help, like Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, Chile, and El Salvador. Mexico sent rescuers and health workers from its defense ministry. Even far-off countries like Spain and Qatar sent specialist teams.
The Vatican, through Pope Leo XIV, also directed money to help the affected people. The way the U.S. helped was special. The country's leader, President Trump, said America would help with the tremendous earthquake. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez of Venezuela publicly thanked him and the U.S. government. She said they were in permanent contact. This showed a new realignment in their relationship, as the U.S. had acted against Venezuela's old government just months before. China, which had earlier criticized the U.S. actions, still sent its help and sadness for the people, showing a pause in their adversarial stance. The United Nations also asked Venezuelan authorities to let news reporters work freely. They warned that getting true information would become a matter of life and death for people. It was not just about aid, but about transparency and trust between the government and its citizens. People also helped in new ways. A Venezuelan-American influencer named Lele Pons used her Instagram page. She has more than 52 million followers. She asked them to share where help was needed most. People wrote comments identifying specific locations. This crowdsourced effort showed how everyday people tried to save lives and find missing family members. However, getting help to everyone was very difficult. The damaged airport was a big bottleneck. It slowed down the influx of important supplies and rescue teams. Schools were closed nationwide for days so buildings could be checked for safety. Many children, about 3.9 million, lived in the areas directly affected by the earthquakes. Their safety and well-being were a big worry for UNICEF. On top of this, over 130 smaller earthquakes, called aftershocks, kept shaking the ground. This made rescue work very dangerous for teams inside weakened buildings, fearing they could collapse further. Would all this help get to the right places in time? The country was already very weak, and the damage was huge. The race against time continued as the world watched, hoping for miracles in the rubble. 8. What happens next? The aftermath of the earthquakes was very hard for Venezuela. The country's money, called its GDP, took a huge hit. Experts said the damage could be between 1% and 5% of everything the country makes in a year. This is a big problem for a country already struggling a lot. Also, the danger was not over. Many aftershocks kept shaking the ground. Rescue teams had to be very careful. The buildings they were searching could fall down more at any time.
Looking back, this was not the first time Venezuela faced such a terrible event. In 1812, a huge earthquake killed around 30,000 people. Then, in 1967, another big earthquake hit Caracas, killing about 240 people.
After that, new building rules were made. They helped for a while. But then, in 1999, heavy rain caused big floods and mudslides in the coastal area, killing 10,000 to 30,000 people. History shows a sad pattern. Is this coastline simply cursed, or is it something else? The truth is, earthquakes do not kill people on their own. Bad buildings do. Many homes in Venezuela were not strong enough. They were not built or checked properly over many years. This problem comes from a mix of things: where the Earth's plates meet, how poor the country is, and changes in its government. Recovery needs more than just money or machines. It needs a lot of trust and good plans. The country had a new government, put in place just 6 months before the earthquakes. This made things even harder. People were already unsure about their future, and the political instability made it clear how fragile everything was. Venezuela's story shows a cycle: disaster, then some rebuilding, then forgetting, and then another disaster happens. The big question now is if this time will be different. Will the country truly learn, or will history repeat itself? Do you think a country already facing extreme political and economic crisis can ever truly rebuild from a natural disaster of this scale? Or are they destined to repeat history? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.